Let's go truthing or faking. Over by the big board, Vedika Bahel is waiting for our daily dose of fact-checking. Now, Vedika, before Ukraine confirmed the start of its counter-offensive, Moscow made several false claims that it had managed to destroy Kyiv's Leopard 2 tanks. What have you got on that?
Yes, indeed, Mark. Well, Russia has claimed for several months now that it had managed to destroy Ukraine's Leopard 2 tanks, the battle tanks that were sent to Kyiv by its European allies. Now, for the last week or so, more misinformation surrounding Moscow's alleged destruction of these tanks has been circulating pretty virally as well. Now, in my first example that we're going to look at, this was actually published by the Russian Ministry of Defense itself on its official Telegram channel. We can see that there's over 300,000 views on this particular post as well. And in this, Russia claimed that it had managed to destroy 28 Ukrainian tanks, of which comprised 8 Leopard tanks as well. And as proof of this conquest, they even included this short video here showing the alleged destruction of these tanks. Now, if we have a look at that video in question, just before we play it, let's just have a look at what we see. So we can see the silhouettes of these alleged Leopard 2s there, and we can count 1, 2, 3 silhouettes in the background there. Now, indeed, when we play this video, I think it's around the 30-second mark that we can see the destruction of itself. Yes, there we go. And boom, that is the alleged destruction there. Now, shortly after this was posted to Russia's official Telegram channel, it also took social networks and other internet channels by storm. I saw this circulate in several languages with these same claims. We can see it here in German, for example. We have it again here in French, and also again, of course, in English. And all of these ranged with views from between 10 to nearly 100,000, really showing us the scope of these claims by Russia there.
Having found these claims, what signs did you find that the signal this video is being falsely misrepresented? Tell us, can you clarify that for us?
Yes, Mark. Well, this claim garnered a lot of doubt on its veracity for quite a few reasons as well. Now, according to experts and Russia itself, according to their post, they claimed that the infrastructure used to destroy these Leopard 2 tanks was something called a Ka-52 Alligator attack helicopter, which uses thermal imaging systems like this black and white photo that we saw from that video. And the point of this thermal imaging technology is to detect heat sources in low light conditions. Now, what we saw in that video, and this is indeed a screenshot of it, all of those vehicles that we saw claiming to be Leopard 2 tanks were actually marked in black, which would imply that their engines are off. Now, this isn't impossible, but it is unlikely that Ukrainian troops would leave the engines off in their prized tanks in the middle of a war zone. Another thing that's worth mentioning is how all of those tanks that we saw were parked indeed out in the open, making them easy targets. Now, again, this isn't impossible, but it is unlikely that after all the effort Ukraine went to obtain these battle-grade tanks, that it would just leave them out in the open as easy targets for Russia and not having them concealed by vegetation or buildings, for example. Now, what's really interesting about that video that we saw there is actually the shape of the silhouette. Now, if we compare it to an actual image of a Leopard 2 tank, a Leopard 2 tank it's very low slung, and it has something called a track in order to have it move there. But what we see in this silhouette, whilst it isn't dissimilar, it does seem quite high off the ground, and there are markers there for what could look like wheels. And in fact, the shape of the vehicle does correspond quite a lot to agricultural machinery. And we can see the similarities between all three of these pictures here. Now, whilst this isn't enough to call it a false claim by any means, just this one silhouette, what becomes a lot more interesting is when we compare the other silhouettes of those other vehicles that we saw, which also match agricultural machinery. Just like this one, we can see similar shapes visible there. And again, another one here which matches an agricultural something called an agricultural sprayer as well. Now, these aren't verified, by any kind of official source, neither Russia nor Ukraine by any means, but all of the signs do point to the fact that these might indeed be agricultural machines, tractors, sprayers, combine harvesters and the like, rather than Leopard 2 tanks as claimed by Russia.
And what are the other viral examples of Leopard tank destruction or not?
Well, we do have this photo. This was published by many pro-Russian accounts. This one, just on its own, has nearly 28,000 views there. And in it, it claims that one of Ukraine's Leopard 2 tanks was destroyed by something called a Lancet, which is an unmanned aerial drone developed by Russia. And this screenshot is allegedly from the onboard camera targeting the Leopard there. Now, from a simple keyword search, it actually led me to a full documentary published on YouTube about Leopard 2 tanks. It is dated from 16 years ago, but if we put them side by side, we can indeed see that is the same image, and it was around the 8.5-minute mark that I found the exact same screenshot being represented on Twitter as a Leopard 2 Russian destruction shot. But yes, we can clearly see that this image has been manipulated, and it isn't the first nor the last time we will see these claims.
Vedika, thank you for shedding light on those fakes. Simple as that. Well done, Vedika Bahel. Thank you very much indeed, Vedika and the team there with Truth or Fake.